This week's episode is about starting your own business without a business degree. The professional world isn't exactly the same as generations before us. People change careers often, work multiple jobs or gigs, and often prefer to work for themselves rather than a large established corporation. Long gone is the dream or reality of working the same job until you retire. So we thought it would be interesting for students and recent grads to talk to some young adults who've started their own creative and meaningful businesses. Penelope and Mary are two sisters on a mission to create empowering, relatable designs that highlight social issues that they feel deserve a spotlight. Through their online shop, Moodish, Penelope and Mary showcase their meaningful designs on an array of clothing and accessories. Their most popular product is, I'm not exactly sure, but I like their t-shirts. They also try to do their part to give back to the community by donating a portion of their profits to nonprofits that represent their personal and professional values. They are the epitome of a socially conscious business. Ultimately, Penelope and Mary's goal is to make people feel good about themselves and brave enough to shed light on some really important issues. Welcome to our podcast, Breathe In, Write Out, Mary and Penelope.
Hi, thank you so much for having us. We're super excited to be here.
Yes. Likewise.
So I know Penelope from a few years ago taking a poetry course. She's very creative, and I see that Mary, like her sister, is equally creative.
More creative, really.
No, we both are. We're both creative in different ways.
Yeah, you seem like a dynamic duo. So I know from my own experience, it's a very brave thing to start your own business. And especially during a pandemic, when people are losing their jobs, they might not want to buy stuff, you know?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, exactly.
What inspired you to go on this crazy journey?
Well, yeah, that's such a great question. And we've thought about it so many times, and we have so many answers, I guess, to the question. So a few years ago, I've always wanted to start a small business. I mean, it's always been like a little secret dream of mine. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. I mean, I'm passionate about food. So I was like, oh, maybe I bought like a book on how to start a food truck. Like, when I bought a book on how to open a restaurant, like I honestly, I was like, oh, maybe someday I could, start a business to do with food. Yeah. But, I had a lot of like pie in the sky ideas, no pun intended. But when Mary first came to Toronto, I had pitched kind of the idea to her, because at that time when she came to Toronto, she was still kind of trying to figure out like what she wanted to do with herself. Like she wasn't in school at that time. So she was still kind of like, she was kind of dabbling with the idea of going into graphic design, but she had just gotten here. And I said, just take some time to get used to the city and like, just find a part-time job, spend some time with me. And she's a wonderful artist. She's self-taught. She never went to school like this. It's her dad's an artist as well.
Yeah.
And like, so she's been drawing since she was like a baby, right? So she's got, her talent is just all natural. And I mean, so I remember saying to Mary a few years ago, I was like, why don't, you're so creative, and you're not just creative in like a physical sense.
Yeah.
Mentally, you have so many good ideas. And I said, what if we like started a little side hustle? Yeah. So we dabbled with the idea, but like, she was like, at that time, like I said, looking into going into school for graphic design. I was actually finishing up my last year at George Brown, doing a diploma in social work and social service work. Okay. So we were kind of already doing other things, or like,
I think I was working full time.
Yeah, you were working full time too at that point, at a pharmacy. And so I think, I think we were just like, we had these great ideas, but we're like, I don't know. It didn't feel like at the right time.
Right.
Right. So fast forward to the pandemic, suddenly we're in a completely different,
dynamic,
like situation in our lives, right? Like I was unemployed at the time. I had just come off a long contract working with a family resource center, and I was about to start looking for another job, right, in social work. And Mary was working at the same place she had been working for a while, at a retail place.
But then I got laid off.
She got laid off. And so we both, like everyone. And so we both found ourselves in a position where we had all this time in our hands, and we're like, well, what are we going to do to like keep ourselves from going, crazy? I hate that word, but so then I was like, well, why don't we revisit this small business idea that we had from a few years ago? Because we had even gone so far as to draw up some of the designs a few years ago, but we just, like I said, we didn't do anything with them.
Yeah.
We put them on a couple tote bags just to see what it would look like, but we didn't actually we just stopped there.
Right.
So then we were like, okay, well, let's actually try to make this a reality.
Yeah, and since then, like, I have already done schooling, so I already had some knowledge, like, because of that.
Like, you had the skills. You have more skills now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Like, which gave me more confidence to take this whole idea more seriously. So that's when we decided to,
to kind of go for it. And the thing is like, we know that COVID-19 has affected people's lives very negatively. Like, we're not downplaying the severity of it, but I'm a believer in silver linings. And I do sort of feel like if COVID hadn't have happened, we wouldn't have started this business. It's kind of a weird thing to think about, because it's like, you feel guilty almost. You feel guilty. You're like, you're not happy that COVID happened, but you are happy about some of the things that maybe came out of COVID happening. Yeah. Right. So I think, really what inspired us was that we had the ideas there already, but we didn't have the confidence or really maybe the drive quite or the experience or like the skill set. Yeah. But then suddenly we did because sorry, go ahead.
Said you guys got to go for it.
Right? Yeah. Why not? Right.
This is so
gave us something to do.
This is it's so strange on Zoom because it's
sorry.
Like
we're not trying to cut you off.
When people are talking, but
and I'm a rambler too. I ramble. I'll go on and on and on. So you have to stop me.
But while I was listening to you, I was thinking this is so similar to my own story. So I don't think kind of like the backstory to my business. But like you, I had this thought I might like to start a business. I had done a community business course. I had some ideas, but other things were happening in life. And again, it didn't seem like the right time.
Exactly.
Yeah. The reason I started it now, this sounds like a sad story, but like you, I'm like, actually, it was a gift. So I was married. I ended up being separated and divorced.
Mm-hmm.
In that moment, my life totally changed. And I remember standing on a street corner. Now, here's the story. I was standing on the corner of near Bathurst and St. Clair. There's like a Shell station. I live kind of up north on Bathurst. And literally, if I turned left, I would go to the subway, which would go down to campus, which now is where I have a lot of my clients. I used to have my office down there. Or I would go right and go to the apartment where I used to live after I had gotten married. I remember standing at literally the stoplight and realizing, whoa, the universe is trying to tell me something. You go, you've gone this way. You have to go this way across the street. And so it was kind of like this. So all the clutter got cleared away and it was very clear. And it sounds like for you two, it was the same thing. All the clutter got cleared away.
Yeah.
Here you are in this moment, and you're like, why not? Why not?
Yeah. It was like fate, kind of.
Well, for me too. I'm someone who needs to have projects and purpose and things to do. Because if I don't, my mental health will suffer for it. So I was like, I can't have nothing to. I have to have something to achieve. And I had all this experience, like this, academic knowledge from taking that social work program. I had the experience of working out in the community. Mary had gained these skills in graphic design, and I was like, it would be so perfect to combine your skills with my social work skills and her graphic design skills together to create something like some kind of this fusion, right? This like kind of in our minds, like the perfect concept for a business. So yeah, so it really was like, I guess, kismet. I don't know if that's the word, but like, you know, even when things just kind of fall into place and you're just like, wow, it makes sense. And we have the time now too, to actually do it and invest time yeah, and like and thankfully, you know, I know not everyone's in the position where some people have to make, they're not in the same everyone's a different financial position as well, right? And we were lucky that we, you know, were collecting CERB or whatever we were doing, unemployment or whatever, and we were able to do this from a financial standpoint as well. So yeah, so we're very grateful for that, I gotta say, that because not everyone has that. So
yeah. But what an amazing story. And neither of you have a business background.
No,
not at all.
No,
so that's a
not
big
at all.
curve as well. I didn't have a business background.
Yeah.
But I feel like I learned a lot from, you know, my liberal arts degrees, and like you, I had done some community stuff and whatnot. So what do you, for like young people out there who maybe have a liberal arts degree, who maybe have an idea but feel like, I don't have an MBA, you know, what did you take away from these kind of more creative educational backgrounds and your own kind of work experience that's been helping you now through this new venture?
Well, do you want to answer first?
You answer first.
Okay. So for me, okay, so it's so interesting. I'm such a believer that like all of our skills are so transferable in so many ways. You know what I mean? Like my job, all of my education, we'll go way back to when I got my undergrad degree. I majored in film studies.
Yeah, I remember that. Yep.
Yeah, and then I did a diploma in social work. Two what seems to be different avenues, really required a lot of the same type of skills. You have to have this, like a lot of the skills of like perception, communication, seeing things that aren't necessarily, you know, right in your face. Like, you know, when you're taking film, you're analyzing like, you're breaking films down, you're looking at the story that's being told, you're learning about the characters and the people. And like film is such a beautiful medium to storytell and to also create social change. And that was the one thing I really took away from my film degree, like the program, was I took some beautiful courses on documentaries and like learning how film can be used to tell stories that can change people's lives, and also shed light on a lot of topics. And then and then also in social work, obviously I learned all about that whole world of really like lifting the veil and seeing through a lens of understanding, you know, what it means to have white privilege, what it means to understanding oppression, and just all of those things that are hot topics right now, it seems. But like a few years ago when I was learning about it, you know, it really opened my mind. And I feel like I'm taking all of that and I'm putting it into this business in terms of like our concept and what we're trying to achieve with this business. But also I think about like all the essays I wrote and this and the projects I had to do in front of you know, in your classroom. Like, you gain so much confidence when you're a student, right? And when you're, no matter what you're doing, whether you're whether you're getting an arts degree or a science degree or whatever, whether you're in school for cutting hair, whatever you're doing, you're going to gain very valuable skills that you can transfer into anything else that you want to do, right? Yeah. So that's for me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I love that. You know, I really love how you talked about the film degree and storytelling, because I feel like for people who haven't been to your Instagram, after this, hopefully they'll visit your Instagram. I feel that your Instagram is telling a story. Yeah. Whenever a new design comes out, there's a story behind it.
Absolutely. You know?
Yeah. Even like, you know, there's a little piece about who you two are. So it's really like engaging, and I think anyone that takes the time to go and check out your website and check out your business does get the sense of what you're about.
Oh, that's good.
Does get the story behind your business. Does get I love it because I remember, interestingly, so when I was married, my ex-husband was doing his MBA in Berkeley. And I had gone to some of the classes, the MBA classes, just sat in. And I remember at that time, this whole socially responsible business thing was coming through the business schools. Like, hey, big businesses, you got to be socially responsible. You got to be socially conscious. But what I feel when I look at your stuff is like, we're leading with that. We're leading with the social consciousness. We're leading with the ideas.
Yeah.
And yes, this is a business, but, you know, our motivation is to put something positive and meaningful into the world.
Absolutely. And that's exactly what we stand for. And that's exactly, and so yeah, really just to kind of, to sort of close how I feel like my education comes into this business is exactly that. My education, when I was in film, when I was doing film, all of my papers, I always had to have a feminist perspective in all of my papers, or some sort of perspective that's to do with like social justice or being more socially conscious. And that's like that was 10 years, well, a little less than 10 years ago. And then even just a few years ago at George Brown, it was kind of the same thing. That's kind of been my world. I've really been trying to find a way to operate in this world and find work in this world that's all about that. I don't, and I thought social work was it, and I still do think it is. I mean, that's, who's to say I'm not still going to work in social work with also operating this business? But that was my ultimate goal for me, is to have a passion, to feel passionate about my work, and my work to have something to do with everything to do, I should say, with being socially conscious.
Well, yeah, with graphic design, you had to come up with designs like all the time. Like you had to come up with different concepts and just different like things. Like we had to do posters, websites, we had to take photography, like all that stuff that I learned in school, I've tied into this business. Like I've taken those tools and I've applied them. So directly, it's been a huge impact, like for me, like
that's
with school,
amazing.
like
her skills are much more obvious transference, and much more obvious, like we need her skills to run this business essentially. Where my skills, you don't really need them, but they've been helpful in terms of the communication part, because running a business it's such an interesting, it's so layered, right? There's so much to it. You have to have a bag of tricks. Like you have to, like we said, because we're doing everything ourselves. We're like, a lot of everything we do, obviously we won't get into it all right at the second, but like everything down to our website, to our Instagram, to how everything we're presenting, it's us doing it, right? And so you got to have a lot of skills in your bag. And if you don't already have them, you learn them. And that's been a big piece of this. We've had to learn so much, which I'm sure that'll be another question, and we'll go more into that. But boy, oh boy, if I could sum up this entire experience, is trial and error.
And we're still learning.
And we're still, I can't even begin to tell you.
Guess what, guys? It continues. That's the life. I've been doing this for almost 10 years now. And it's still trial and error.
Right?
And something I heard Mary say, I mean, other than the graphic design, and she said, we had to come up with different designs all the time. And that really speaks to me that you're learning how to improvise, and you're learning how to continuously be creative. And most people don't realize that being an entrepreneur and running a business is actually a creative venture.
It's like an exercise too.
Something. Yeah, I mean, you're selling something maybe, but you're actually building an organization. You're creating an organization with values. With
that's such a nice way to put it.
With people. And so I love this because I for example, I love just a little bit of what Mary said, because I have a student that I have taught since she was about 12, and now she's graduating university, and she, like you, has always been drawing. And I in fact, she drew the comics. If anyone goes to our Instagram, she's the one that draws a little.
That's cool.
That's nice.
But recently, I said to her, why don't you be an artist? And she's like, well, I want a stable job. And so
that's usually the answer.
This is a story I hear a lot of, like, well, I want to do this I'll do it as a hobby. I can't make this a career. This isn't a real thing, but it is. And really those creative skills you have, it translates to more than just drawing. You're constantly
it really does
coming up with new ideas, new concepts.
Exactly.
You're actually communicating messages that might be unconscious, like that are around, right? Like maybe you can show. We can't really see your shirt.
Oh yeah. So this is one of our designs. It's called our Send Nudes design, and this was all about body positivity. There's so much young people. Young people feel a lot of pressure to objectify themselves, sexually objectify themselves in order to get attention or to feel liked or whatever it may be. And and I got to say this, all of our designs, although we collaborate together, they're Mary. Mary is the creative genius behind the design. I tweak them. I kind of maybe help not make them better, but maybe I do sort of help.
Feedback.
I give her feedback
that and I try to make it better.
But the point is like, so like we thought this was like a fun little play on people sending nudes, but actually sending noodles, right? So you want some nudes, honey? Well, here you go.
So I love that. It's really relevant.
Yeah.
It's relevant. And so tell us, we're on the topic. Tell us a little bit about this slug.
Yeah.
So this is part of our pattern collection.
Well, it's called our underdog collection.
Well, you're right.
So maybe if some people are just listening and they're not maybe watching on YouTube, then Mary has a shirt and it has a bunch of little slugs all over it. And,
sorry. Yeah, and then my shirt is a woman or a person.
Oh, it's just a hand.
It's a hand. It's a hand holding a phone, and you can see that on the screen. It's like a cup, kind of like a cup of noodles. So kind of like they're sending a photo of noodles.
Well, it kind of looks like a penis. It could be a penis. It could.
Oh, really? Like the noodles themselves, or the hand?
Well, no, the noodles. It's kind of a phallic shape.
Okay, yeah. That was not at all a part of the design concept. There you go. See, people can take from the designs as what they want, and that's the point, right?
Yeah.
So and then with Mary, so we have a collection.
Slug, Mary.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is part of our collection we call the Underdog, and this one specifically is our snazzy slug design. So I drew up a slug and I made a pattern out of it. And the whole idea behind that is people view things like slugs, and our other one is a moth. They view these things as
oh, you're not being seen.
Oops. As kind of being like a pest or a nuisance. So we don't think that. We see the beauty in these underrepresented creatures. So we wanted to kind of showcase, the beauty of them, I guess.
Celebrate them. Celebrate what is often uncelebrated, like a moth. The moth's often compared to the butterfly. A slug might be compared to a caterpillar. Caterpillars are so cute. Slugs
or like a snail.
Or like a snail. Slugs are just as cute. So they're a little bit slimy and alien-esque, but that's wonderful.
And it the whole idea is, everyone has beauty in their own way, like nobody's more beautiful than someone else, everybody's different. All beauty is beautiful,
Yeah.
I love that.
And I should say that this design, the Send Nudes design, it's a part. So we have collections. So this is called our Boldishly Cute. So it's bold, but it's also cute. It's a cute design. So yeah.
Oh, awesome. Cool.
It's always the goal.
Let's sort of circle back to this, the challenges and rewards and oh my God, all the things you learned.
Oh.
So, what would you tell your, let's say, 25-year-old self? If your 25-year-old self came up and said, hey, I'm thinking of starting a business in the next 5 or 10 years, what would you tell them? What kind of warnings or tips would you give them?
For me, I'd be like, don't be overly confident. Don't
okay, what do you mean by overly confident though?
Well, don't go into this thinking that things need to fall into place right away. Don't assume that things need to work out right away for things to be successful. Everything takes time. We're still growing and learning, and we're still not at the point where we want to be yet.
Yeah.
So
I mean, the first year I had my business, I made $5,000. That was it.
There you go. And we'll be making less than that.
yeah, like when we first
Year's not
started
over
this,
yet.
when we first
True.
started this whole business, I was under the assumption like when we went to the route we're at now, like where we made a website and we did,
because we've changed direction. I don't know if you want us to
Yeah.
tell you a little bit about that. That might fit with another question. But just to say that, like, to kind of answer, sorry to interrupt, Mary,
No, it's
but
fine.
just to kind of talk about the challenges, one of the challenges I personally think of a business, of not just starting a business, but is how it's going to evolve. You have to have a vision for your business. What direction do you want it to go in? And that could be hard, right? Because you might have a really good idea, but not really know what the vision is. Like you're like, I want to sell these great
I'm still
cakes.
struggling with that. I think
Right?
that's
Exactly.
something
Like yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was saying, I think, so I actually have a marketing coach just to go through this, because I think things change as you go. And maybe that's what Mary was speaking to, is it seems like, you kind of have to let go of expectations.
Yeah.
Even if you have a vision, there's a lot of stuff you're not going to think about. There's a lot of stuff you're not going to know. There's a lot of things that are going to change.
And you learn everything takes time. Like you can't just go into it expecting to like make money right away, like get sales right away, because it's not going to happen. It's, like you have to like build up to that.
Yeah.
That's what we're seeing. And when we first started this, I was like under the assumption, oh, well, I'm pretty good at designing. We're going to get sales. Everything's going to work out perfectly, but that hasn't been the case. And, that's been a learning experience to like be patient and keep going. Don't give up.
Yeah. And no one's going to be as in love with your business as you are. That's so key, because we are under this misconception that people are supposed to love our business as much as we do. When I say people, I don't mean necessarily strangers. I mean like friends. I mean like family members. You seem to think that, because you think of it like your baby. Because when people have children, obviously, everyone loves your baby. It's their, it's a baby.
No, but not
obviously.
you.
But I guess what I mean is like, we thought the same thing for our business. Like, oh, everyone's going to love our business as much as we love it.
Right.
And they're not necessarily gonna maybe not even care that much. And that's another challenge, or another piece of advice. Don't take anything personally.
Right.
Like you have to separate yourself from, you have to look at the business and try to keep a professional.
Don't take it personally.
Like you got to stay professional with it to some extent.
I find that even today is still a challenge, because like you said, it's basically something you created.
Yeah.
You put all this love, all this energy into it, and when it doesn't go well, or it doesn't go as you expect,
or you're not getting the attention that you thought you would get, or like the praise even, or like you thought people might care more about it than they do. But you got to let all that go.
Well, people care in their own ways.
People care in their own ways.
You can't expect people to care the way you want them to care. Like they can show they care in little ways. Like you can't just expect,
Yeah, for sure.
Too much.
Yeah, it's true. Like there's lots of ways to show support. It's not necessarily buying something. It's like liking it. Like you've seen the kind of the I don't know what you call them, but people have shared the images of like how to show love to a small business. Like you can like something, you can share something, you can comment, you can whatever. There's a million ways to show support, right? And we've saw that. We've gotten lots and lots of support from people. I'm not trying to make it sound like we haven't, but I just think that like I'm a very sensitive person, and I definitely have had moments where I'm like, why aren't people caring more? And like, and I've had this, and Mary's been the more rational one who's been like, Penny, you can't take it so personally. And I'm like, I know, I'm just such a feeler. It's just who I am.
Well, I think that is an important point, is that there's a lot of rejection in having.
Yes. Oh yeah.
And I think people, when people one thing people talk about when they graduate university is the difficult process of finding your first job and the rejection involved in that.
Oh,
if you're a business owner, every day you're looking for a new job, because every new customer, every new client is a new job. And so you really got to develop that thicker skin.
Yeah, you do.
You got to put yourself out there. You got to believe, even though you're going to get rejected and rejected and until
that's such a good word to describe it. It's such a good word to describe it. You really, you have to be open to rejection. It's so true.
Yeah, not everyone's gonna like your stuff either. Like you're gonna have people that, you know, like might put you down. You might have haters, like if you get successful enough. So you just have to kind of, you know, accept it and don't take it personally, you know?
Yeah.
Everybody goes through it. You see it online, you know?
It's better to, and really at the end of the day, if you want to, if you're really passionate about doing something, you kind of have to let all that stuff go and just, you don't do it for yourself.
Yeah.
Like Mary and I keep saying, treat it like a project. Treat it like a project. This isn't about making money. This isn't about everyone being like, this isn't about becoming super successful. This is
Learning,
our project,
growing.
learning, growing, and about
Having
conceptualizing. We're conceptualizing something and making it real, bringing it to life on a t-shirt or on a tote bag or whatever. That's success in itself right there. And so if we treat it more like we know that we're achieving just by creating. It doesn't, like, we don't have to measure success and achievement by how much money you're making, how many, you know what I'm saying, or how much praise or attention you're getting. You really should just look at it as, we're successful because we even did this at all.
Yeah, we've come a long way too. Like I always tell Penny, I'm so proud of us. I mean, we don't always get along. That's another challenge sometimes. Like we bump heads.
Yeah, we're polar opposite. We're polar opposite in this business.
Even before this,
we were fighting before the podcast. We were fighting before. 2 minutes before we were fighting. We're just gonna be honest. Mary and I are polar opposite people. I'm very sensitive. I'm also very military. Like I'm like that. And I like schedules and I like things to be very like specifically.
I more go with the flow.
Yeah, she's more.
I like taking it easy and just like being inspired. I don't like having things so like, you know, structured all the time. I'm just more like, oh, let's see how inspired I am today. And if I'm feeling inspired, I'll design. Like I don't like doing things too like.
That's why.
You know.
Penny's the business manager and you're the creative department.
Yeah.
You're the creative department.
Yeah. Big time.
So maybe that's another thing, communication.
Oh.
As you grow, like as you build a team and even with your clients. So some good rejection, communication, continuous learning, and probably, you know, state of overwhelm, especially at the beginning.
Oh yeah. Big time. It's just, it's a journey. It's a journey that has a lot of paths, a lot of barriers, a lot of ups, a lot of downs. Anyway,
it's fun.
You gotta love, sorry, I just want to say one more thing about the advice. You have to love doing it though. Like you can't do something, it can't feel like a chore. If your small business is starting to feel like it's bogging you down, like it's not, like you're not enjoying it, then I don't think you should do it because there's no joy in it anymore. So you gotta, even though, yes, it's a lot of stress and there's moments where we want to throw in the towel, but I get so much joy from it. Really, I do get a lot of joy from it, or I probably shouldn't do it.
Yeah.
So
it's a good point. So, no, I mean, and there's periods you feel like that. I mean, there's periods I felt like that. Especially in the beginning, because I think it's a lot about your confidence, the little self-doubt gremlin.
Oh yeah.
And you compare yourself a lot online too, because with social media, you'll see other businesses pop up and you'll be like, you'll see, oh, it seems like they're getting more attention. Oh, people seem to like them more. Like,
again with the rejection. I mean, it's tough.
It's tough. Like, it's tough. Like, that's where it's hard for me. Like, I oftentimes compare our business to others, and I need to stop that. Like, you know, we just need to focus on ourselves and not other people. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, just focus on our own mission and what we're doing.
Exactly.
To get the information, to know what's happening in the market. But it's good to know what's happening in the market.
Yes, it is. Yeah, it is.
But you know, to find your strategic spot and stick to your spot. You know, like, we'll adjust a little bit, but you know, I think just like with people, businesses serve a certain community. If we have different communities, people are different, So we can't have all one business. You know, even if you look at fast food chains, how do we have A&W, McDonald's, Harvey's, you know, Kentucky Fried? There's so much fast food.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And these have been going on. And then there's like independent so that means different people, like for example, I would rather go to A&W and have a teen burger than a Big Mac. But somebody else might really crave a Big Mac and really A&W. Bleh. So everybody
that's true. That's a good point. That's a really good point. That's a good point. And that's encouraging. That's
like Pepsi and cola. Some people prefer Pepsi over cola. You know?
Exactly.
Same thing, but you know, different brands.
Yeah, same idea, but different kind of part of the idea.
I also really like, now I think if you're a business, you do have to at some point care about making money, because it is.
You do. Oh, I care. I just have to accept that it's not happening yet.
Yeah, but even the most established, successful businesses take hits.
Yeah.
And so if all of a sudden, boom, this year, financial crisis, like we saw this during COVID, a lot of airlines, boom, crash.
Yeah.
So
True.
Maybe airlines are not as passionate about what they're doing as you. Probably the CEO is not.
Maybe in the beginning they were, but then that's the thing.
If you
after a while, when you make a lot of money, your passion maybe fades.
Southwest Airlines, they definitely had, like, for example, a very clear vision and like something they were going to do. But obviously there's still a vision, and they're still doing it because they want to be in the airline business or whatever, right? So there's definitely the piece of you should do something you care about, you believe in. Now there's different ways of running a business, but the camp that's more the creative, meaningful business, I think the whole purpose aspect of it, like that you get joy, is like a really important piece. And I think a lot of young people, that's what they're looking for. Like I said, things have changed. You know?
Yeah.
People don't want to have the same job forever.
People want to work for themselves too. You know, we all operate differently. It's weird if you think about how we've been kind of programmed to think about how you're supposed to work. And what I mean by that is, it's like you go to a job and there's a hierarchy there, and there's this boss, and you have to listen to them.
Capitalism.
But maybe you don't even like the way that they manage or their ideas, and yet you're forced to comply. And I just think that people are seeing more and more that there's a lot of unjustness in the work area, in the workforce. And like, you know what I'm saying? Like I have had so many horrible bosses and managers, and I just think to myself, like, and that's why I've had a lot of jobs. I've never stayed that long in a lot of jobs, because I've always found myself feeling so like I wasn't really be able to be my full true self in these jobs, where like I wasn't connecting with my boss or whatever it may be. I just think there's a lot of people out there like that who would rather just be their own boss, because at the end of the day, they make the decisions, and if things fail, it fails on their terms. Or if, you know what I mean? Like the stress levels are so much lower when you're your own boss, in my opinion.
I don't know.
Depending. I guess what I mean is that your stress is your stress. It's not the stress brought on by another human being that's making your life miserable. I don't know.
Maybe, but I think I have a lot of bosses. They're my students. So
that's a good point. I guess that's another way to look at it. Yeah, everyone has a boss. That's true. That's a good point. Our boss would be our customers in a sense. Yeah, that's a good point.
But I definitely think the culture of, like, say, the culture that our parents grew up in and the culture that we're going into, the work culture is changing.
Yeah.
And that's probably why you see more of these, you know, independent ventures and maybe more meaningful things and stuff like that. So
sure.
So tell us, kind of on that note, tell us a little bit about the values in your business. Like, what are kind of the key words that sum up your values?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Well, empowerment is like a major one for us. We want our designs to make people feel good about themselves. We want our designs to make people feel seen. You know, Mary and I have often throughout our lives have felt very misunderstood. I'll let Mary speak for herself. I'll speak for myself. But for me, I mean, I felt like a very misunderstood person most of my life. And also like I've got a very different kind of, I want to say eccentric. I'm a unique person, you know, and I'm not saying that like to compliment myself. I'm saying it more like I don't feel like I always fit in. I'm definitely outgoing and I'm friendly, but I don't know. I guess I've always felt a little bit like an outsider to some degree. And I guess we just really want our designs to kind of to reach people that don't feel like they're important, to reach people that don't feel like they're special or that they matter. And that means a lot to us to do that. And like, for example, I don't know if you know our we call it our AF collection, like AF deal with the collection, like, so like queer AF, sensitive AF, anxious AF, spooky AF, like that collection, that actually was my idea, believe it or not, which of course she had more, all the design idea was her, but like the concept was my idea of like thinking about those things that people are, that are shamed. You know, people feel ashamed to be an anxious person, or I have felt ashamed my whole life for how sensitive that I am. And I just, so really our values, a lot about what our values are is it all comes from our hearts and our personal experiences, and really just creating something that speaks to people, and that, like, you know, there's a message there. There's always going to be a message there that's going to be about love, acceptance, inclusivity. That's the other word, empowerment, inclusivity. You know, what do you think?
Yeah, I kind of similar to what Penny said. Like, yeah, like our designs, we try to like encompass, like, we want people to relate to our stuff as well. And I'm queer. I identify as pansexual. So that's why, like, we have the queer designs. I know how hard it is to, like, you know, come to terms with who you are. And it's, you know, I'm still kind of discovering myself more and more as I get older. So, like, that's kind of my part.
Well, more, not just that, but yeah, like, exactly. Like, it's really like our values, all these designs are a piece of us. It all comes from it's all from our personal stories or our personal journey, or those close to us and their journeys. Like, we're always just trying to make everything real, authentic. There's no designs that aren't fake.
A value is authenticity. That's probably why I like you guys, because that's one of my
thank
values.
You. Yeah, there you go. So you know, like, I don't know. It's interesting to think about what are our values. But yeah, values is treating people with kindness. That's another one. Be kind to people. Everyone's so competitive. It's hard being a woman, especially in this world, you know, like, because you always feel like you're not enough, you know, like you're not pretty enough, you're not smart enough, you're not doing enough, you're not a good enough mom, you're not a good enough girlfriend, you're not a good enough this, whatever you may be.
Right.
And like, as two women, people who identify as women, you know, we just, you know, we really, that means a lot. That's a big part of it for us too, is really that female empowerment piece for us personally. So.
Wow. So yeah, I think, like, I'm a big fan of Brene Brown. I don't know if you.
Oh yeah. I watched her Netflix thing recently.
Yeah, a lot of what you're talking about is like what she talks about: feeling
vulnerability, being vulnerable.
Yeah, feeling misunderstood, feeling shamed, feeling like you don't belong, feeling different. And so, even though you're saying, you know, this comes from our personal experience, I think there's a lot of people out there that can connect with that.
Yeah, and that's kind of our whole like point. Like, we know other people might be able to connect with our designs, which is why we like made them. Like, we know there's other people like us out there. So
yeah, we want to reach people. We want people to feel seen and heard through our designs, you know, to look at something and to look at a design like this and think, you know what, I am someone that has been made to feel like I need to share photos of myself And I didn't feel good about that. And so maybe they'll look at this and get like, it'll make them laugh or make them feel like, you know, like I don't need to I don't need to feel like sharing photos of my body is necessary or whatever.
Or you can if
you can if you
love
want
yourself
to.
and you don't give a shit.
Yeah, it's up to you. Like that's the thing too. Like we're really never trying to preach too. Like that's the other thing through our designs. We're not trying to preach or like tell people like this is how you should live your life or you should be. This is just really what we believe in, what we feel. But we think life is a big spectrum of things, right? And everyone is gonna feel and differently about everything that can be, if that makes any sense. So yeah. So
I also want our designs to kind of be left like for interpretation. Like someone might see something different from someone else with them, like when they look at them,
like a penis.
But you know what? Fashion really is about self-expression.
Yeah.
And it's a form of art, high fashion.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so you're kind of bringing this to the people.
That's what we're trying to do.
Like the everyday person.
Yeah.
And
who says fashion can't be meaningful, you know? Like who says fashion can't, you know, like send a message?
Yeah. Well, it does. I mean, I think like, you know, even the big high fashion shows, there's a message, but that seems kind of unattainable, I think, to a lot of people. So what I'm saying is you know, anybody could have this t-shirt.
Yeah.
So you're taking that kind of high fashion mentality in a way and then bringing it to everyday life.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah, that's definitely a nice way to look at it, for sure.
So we talked a little bit about what would you tell your younger self.
Mm-hmm.
We talked a little bit about the meaning, what you've learned. I'm like, wow, we've talked about a lot of things.
And honestly, I'm like a fountain of talk, so I could talk forever, especially about this business, because it's been my life. It's been like what I breathe every day for the past almost 1 year. Almost 1 year is coming up, actually.
Wow.
That we started.
Yeah, we've come a long way.
Yeah, like I mean, do you mind if we share a little bit of like our trajectory a little? Because I just find it really interesting for those who will be listening. Like where we started is you know, in more of the handmade direction, where I bought a heat press, you know, I bought a sewing machine. I was hand pressing all of the designs onto tote bags, and I was sewing tags with our logo on it into the bags. And then we were even hand pressing onto baby onesies heat pressing onto t-shirts. And that was kind of the route that we were going down. And we were on Etsy. We didn't have a website. And, you know, Mary and I talked. We said, like, it was Mary. It was just kind of like, you know, yeah, you know, we're doing a great job, whatever. But the reality is, what's the quality of our stuff really going to be at the end of the day? How many washes can someone get out of a shirt that's being done with a heat press and heat transfer
because
paper?
we've washed some of our stuff before.
And we like tested it all, and we're like, it doesn't wash the best. And like, we as much as we would have loved to stay in like kind of the handmade world, because it's so beautiful, like to create something yourself. You know, it's not like we're making jewelry or ceramics or pottery or whatever. Like it's different when it comes to clothing, right? And we knew that we had to go through a third party if we wanted things to be, if we really wanted our stuff to be high quality, et cetera, et cetera. So that's why we decided to change paths completely. And we work with a third party vendor that puts all of our designs on the products for us.
And we have
we built our own website, and we built our own website ourselves, which was a huge feat. Like took so much, like it was like a lot of work. I can't even believe we did it, to be honest, ourselves. We didn't like code it, nothing like crazy like that, but we built it, you know, through Shopify.
We picked the photos, the color choices,
everything. We did everything ourselves, you know? And so it's just interesting. So yeah, just to kind of, because I think about the world of Etsy versus the world of like your own website. And it's a very interesting world, because Etsy is a market in itself. So it does make it a lot easier to bring in customers. But then there's something to be said about having your own professional looking website, you know, and anyways, yeah, so I guess, yeah, I just wanted to kind of share that with us because the reason I brought it up is because I'm thinking about how it's going to be our 1 year, but it's going to be our 1 year since we kind of started the journey that is Moodish. But then it's only been a couple months since we actually solidified the direction that we want to go in, if that makes if that makes sense. Yeah.
Well, that's good, because I was going to ask you just before I kind of ask like my last question, kind of to reflect on that, not so much of like what did we do, but again, kind of back to how do you feel about that if you look back, because Mary keeps saying we've come so far. What
Yeah.
like what does that mean, and what have you really learned about yourselves through that process? So
From
we
like
talked
beginning to now, you mean? Like,
yeah, I mean, we
like
talked about here, if you're going to run a business, you got to be prepared for rejection, communication, whatever. But if you reflect on yourself as a new kind of entrepreneur, what has changed for you? What have you learned about yourself?
for me personally, I've always been I'm a self-doubter. I don't often believe in my abilities to do things. And I've never openly said this, but I'm gonna openly say it. A few years ago, I'm having a confession right now, and I'm proud to share it. A couple years ago, when I was at George Brown, when I was doing the social work program, I made the conscious decision, and I was lucky to do it through them, to get myself tested for a learning disability. And I decided to do it because I had noticed throughout my life, I learned differently. When I was in school, I could get good grades, but I had to work really hard. And I just knew that the way that my mind was working and operating and processing and functioning was different than, maybe, I don't want to say normal people, but I'm going to say different than others. And so I made the conscious decision to find out if I had any kind of learning difference. And I do. I have like a spatial, it's to do with how I visualize information in my head. So it was empowering to find out that I had a learning, I'm going to use the word disability just so people know what I'm talking about, but I mean, the word that should be used is difference, but I'm going to say disability just for the sake, I'm talking about my own self. But my learning disability, I got to say, like, I'm glad I learned I had one, but it also, unfortunately, I will say that it was a double-edged sword, where, like, in the sense that, like, then I also kind of started to doubt myself, had more doubt onto like my abilities and what I'm able to achieve, which I had already had my whole life anyways. But anyways, my point is that I'm so proud and in awe of how much I was able to achieve and learn in this process. I can't even believe I was able to do all that I've done. I didn't even know I had the skills and that I was even capable of it. And I'm just so proud of myself because I always underestimate myself. So for me, a big thing I learned about myself personally is that if I really want something, I can make it happen. I'll do anything to make it happen. I'm such the tenacity that I have, I didn't even know I had, because I guess I've been passionate about things, but this type of passion that I have for this business is the most passion I've ever had for anything in terms of work. And like, if I did not understand something, I would spend hours to figure it out. And I'd make a million mistakes before we got it right. And so, yeah, so really just like how much you can really achieve, you won't know till you try. You really won't. And there's so much information out there at your hands waiting for you because of the technology that we have today, because of Google, because or even just networking or asking other people, like, yeah, so that's for me. Yeah, that's kind of that's the piece for me that I'm just so proud of myself and what I've been able to achieve. Considering I have a lot of my own internal struggles of feeling like I'm not smart or that I'm not capable.
So I feel like
what changed it? So this little self-doubt gremlin got a little quieter. Still there, a little quieter, and this other little voice showed up that's saying, "No, Penny, you can do this." So some sort of shift in your confidence. How about you, Mary? What's changed for you?
Well, I feel like I went into this a little more naive and unsure, and like going into it and constantly designing and like thinking of new concepts and new ways to showcase our website and our Instagram. Like I think I just learned like I think I just learned to be more confident in this whole business. Like I think yeah, like I think I definitely take it way more seriously now than I did before. Like even when we were doing this in the beginning, I feel like I wasn't really with it as much as I am now. And like now I like actually like do research on our website. Like I look at like forums of how to like get better at things. Like I feel like I'm definitely more in it now than I was in the beginning because I take it more seriously because I've been able to grow and learn.
Yeah, and I just want to say that also I have so much respect for Mary. Like through this whole process, I have seen how smart she is, how creative she is. I always knew she was, but I've gotten to see it through at a whole other level. Like I think I viewed Mary kind of in the beginning as like the artist. The artist that could come up with great designs, but she's so much more than that. Mary is a visionary in a lot of ways, down to like how our Instagram should be, how our Instagram should look, how our website should look,
Our photos.
how our photography should be done. She's not just the artist; she's the visual like goddess of
the creative department.
She really
Yeah.
is. She really is, and I've seen that. I've come to respect that and understand the way her mind works a lot more through this process.
But I feel like I gradually got better and better at it too. Like I feel like I've just been able to grow throughout all of this.
Well, that's
For
awesome.
sure.
Yeah, both
Sounds
of us
like-
have.
Sounds like you both have a growth mindset now. Whereas
Yeah.
maybe when you started, you had like a, I don't know, doubt mindset.
Yeah, definitely
something.
definitely more
I think it was that we just didn't know what the hell we were doing pardon my French. We didn't know what we were doing at all in the beginning, but like as you go along and you start really learning the craft that is starting a small business, you just naturally become better and more confident because now you know what it is you're actually doing. There's lots I still don't know what I'm doing. I'm terrified for the first tax season when that comes to me. I have so many spreadsheets. I'm like the spreadsheet master of keeping track of everything. And the accountant that I work with is going to be like, oh my, they're going to think I'm very organized, but they're going to be very overwhelmed by all my spreadsheets. But yeah, so like, yeah, I think we've learned a lot about ourselves.
Yeah,
We've learned a lot about how we operate as not just sisters.
Yeah, I was going to ask, has it changed your relationship as sisters? Do you think you've become closer or understand each other? Penny's like,
Oh, I feel like we definitely fight a lot.
We fight more. But it's not a fight. It's not just
discussion, or is it a fight?
But it's the pandemic too. We're together all the time. Like we haven't been able to socialize with other people, right? So it's not just because there's a whole other layer there of the fact
we just think very differently. We're just two different people. We're just like on two ends of like the whole spectrum. So like we're just not similar in the way we work or think. Like
yeah, but it sounds like you're starting to understand and respect that.
Yeah, I think we kind of complement each other. Like where I lack, Penny doesn't, and then where she you word that.
It's fine. Basically, we complete one another.
Yeah.
No, what I bring to the table, what I may not bring to the table, Mary brings, and vice versa. You know what I mean? Like we are the perfect team on paper. We are the perfect team. But we have had so many fights we've had so many fights.
But we've learned from them. We
always learn.
We always resolve them.
We always resolve them. And honestly, I think our designs and just the way we're operating would not be as good as it is, because I'm not trying to toot my own horn here, toot our own horn. But if you look at our business from an outsider's perspective, I don't think people I think most people would think that we were doing this for a while.
Yeah.
Am I wrong? Does that sound arrogant?
No. You think I would have you on here if I thought it was garbage?
No, but I feel like people might be like, they've only been at this for a year. Like I feel like, and not even, but our new direction is actually not even. It's only been like 3 months.
Yeah.
Like, so I'm just saying, like, I think the reason that what we produce looks as good as it looks, in my opinion, is because we fought. Because we fight all the time until it's absolutely perfect.
Yeah. We don't want to just agree. We want to like talk.
We want it to be top notch. We want everything down to like what we write in our Instagram posts.
So I'm saying, are you fighting or are you just having heated discussions?
I think it's more like bickering, really.
Yeah.
I wouldn't really say it's like full on fighting. It's more like bickering. Like Penny might think something looks good, and I'll be like, no, Penny, that doesn't look good.
And I'll take it personally. I take it personally. I take it as a personal attack on my taste.
But then she'll think about it and she'll be like, hey, Mary was right. We should have changed this. Like, it was a good choice. It was a good call. So
yeah.
we at least learn. And same with Penny. Like sometimes like she won't like the way I word something, and she'll be like, you should word it like this. And I'll be like, oh yeah, she's right. That sounds a lot better. So yeah. She's better at the communication of this business, and I'm more of like, I'm better at the visuals of it.
Visual department,
as you can tell.
Communications department.
I'm not that good at the whole.
Visual is a form of communication.
It is. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
that's true.
It sounds like you're learning a lot about communication in general, between each other, to potential clients, probably to potential collaborators, coming on a podcast.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Communication is honestly key in life. Yeah.
So that's why.
And we communicate in so many ways. We communicate through gestures. We communicate through language. We communicate through text.
I was going to say that's why your job is just as important as my job. You say, oh, well, you're the design person. You do the most important things, but yours is also very important. Yeah. You do the communication part of this.
Basically, Moodish could not be Moodish without if one of us wasn't a part of it. So like Mary couldn't operate this business by herself because she couldn't wouldn't want to do the logistical business side of things. And I obviously could never, I can barely draw a stick person. Like, so there would be no Moodish without both of us.
Yeah, we're both needed to complete the business.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. And I love that we ended on the communication piece because, I mean, that's what I do. I teach people how to communicate. And this shows how important communication is in no matter what you do. And if you're good at communication, if you have those critical thinking, problem solving, creative skills that you can get from a liberal arts degree, you can do all kinds of stuff. So I think it's a really inspiring story. So
absolutely.
Just to wrap up, can you guys each tell me a book that has meant or means a lot to you at the moment, a book that's really meaningful to you?
Okay, you go first, Mary.
Okay, well, a book that I love that's stuck with me for, I think I read it, how long ago did I read it? I think I read it like 6 years ago, is the book A Piece of Cake by Cupcake Brown. And it's a book about a young woman of color who she grew up around like sexual abuse as a child, drug addiction.
Not around it. She experienced. She experienced.
Sorry. I suck at explaining.
No, you don't.
Yeah. She dealt with sexual abuse as a child, poverty, drug addiction. She went through all of it. She's been through it all. And she's come through, like, she had periods where she hated herself. She lived on the street. She's just been through everything. But then she's turned her life around and she became a lawyer. And she, like, obviously learned to love herself. And it's just very inspiring. It's a very inspiring book to see someone go through all that crap and to become something of it. Like,
to not let it defeat you. To not let it defeat you.
So, you know, when you have a bad day in business, just think, well, if she can do it,
Brown did it.
Yeah, like people go through shit. And
that's a memoir. That's a true story. Yeah.
Well, yeah, obviously it's a true story.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. So like it's a good book. I recommend it for sure.
Yeah, we'll put the link. And how about you, Penny?
Yeah. Okay, so anytime anyone's ever asked me in my life like about like a book that I would recommend, I if you've not read the book She Comes Undone by Wally Lamb, like have you read that book?
No.
Oh, that is one of the most beautiful books ever written. And his second book, I think he does a second book called I Know This Much Is True, maybe, but it doesn't matter. The only reason I bring up the second book is because it got turned into an HBO TV show. So if you've heard of the HBO show, I Know This Much Is True, that's also by Wally Lamb. But his original book that I love, it's called She Comes Undone. What's really interesting about this book is that it's written in a female perspective, like first person female perspective, but it's written by a man. And like, you know, some people might find that kind of problematic. I'm not sure. The book's got to be from the 80s, I think. But he does such an amazing job speaking as a woman in this book. And the book is about a woman and all of her life experiences. She experienced like also sexual abuse. She had a lot of body negativity issues with herself, and she went through a lot of dysfunction, and it's just the journey of her life, and it's just so relatable, and it follows her from a child to like her 40s, like late 40s, and just like her experiences and relationships with men and women, and it's just a really beautiful book, and I just think it's a book that's just so raw and real, and like, I don't know. I just I recommend, just read that book. Man, I love that book. I haven't read it in a while. I should reread it. So She Comes Undone, Wally Lamb.
Great. We'll put the links. And both those books are about strong
Women.
Yeah.
strong women. They're authentic.
Yeah, they're raw.
Yours is fiction and the other one's nonfiction. But I mean, they have that in common, that I guess they're kind of about the lives of real women. And I think it's a great place to end, because really this business started by two strong women.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Inspire other strong women and other people who feel kind of like on the margins. So I think that's really powerful and amazing. And I hope that anyone who listens to this, watches the YouTube video, will check out your site, and you can find out more about Penny and Mary at their new website that they created recently, www.moodishshop.com, and we will also put the link in the post so you can check that out. And thank you so much for being on this podcast. I love the kind of like sisterly chaos.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And honestly, like, you're inspiring to us as well. You know, like, I gotta say, one of the most inspiring things about operating this business is looking at other female business owners or female creatives and what they're doing, and like, and that, yeah, it's beautiful. It's beautiful to see so many women out there that are just doing their thing, owning their craft, and and it just makes us happy, and it makes us feel very, like, optimistic for the future, and for the next generation of young women that keep coming, and all the opportunities that will be out there for them, and for whatever they want to do with their lives. And so, yeah, we're just happy to be a part of that in any way. So thank you so much, for having us.
Yeah.
Our awkwardness and all.
Yeah.
Kind words. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in to our podcast or watching our YouTube interview with Penny and Mary about their very innovative, socially conscious fashion business called Moodish. And we interviewed them because they are, Penny was a kind of liberal arts student, and Mary obviously did some graphic design, which is kind of related to what they end up doing, but they have no business experience. So I think it is inspiring to kind of hear about their story, and they've only been doing it for 1 year. For people out there who might be thinking about doing their own thing and think, well, I don't have a business degree, I don't have a professional degree. Well, the skills you learn in your liberal arts degree, social sciences and humanities, are really valuable and can help you to reach that goal. So something I really liked about their business is that they draw a lot of their designs from what's happening in the world. And so my writing exercise today is not really an writing exercise. It's more of an idea generating exercise. I know that something some people struggle with when having to write an essay or an article or do an assignment or maybe a report at work is, unless someone has given you, you need to write about X, Y, and Z, is generating your own idea. And so something that can help you if you're stuck, and something I used to do, is to every day kind of be aware of what's happening in the world. Read the newspaper. Don't just read the posts on social media. Read a newspaper, read a magazine. This isn't exactly the best choice. I pulled it on my stack of magazines, and it's an alumni magazine. But so if you're stumped, pull out one of those resources and just like, what you could do is just randomly flip through it. Point to a page or randomly scroll through an article in the news. Take a look at it. I don't know what this is. There's a conductor standing in front of a piano and a guy clapping in the alumni magazine, and it actually asks a lot of random questions. How does a headache remedy work to relieve pain? Is it easier for an English-speaking person to learn German or a German-speaking person to learn English? So very random. Already, there's topics on this page. So, I mean, it's kind of silly, but it's a way to get inspired. And maybe you flip to a page and it's not helpful at all, right? Maybe you flip to some keywords, a title, an image. It's not helpful. It's not related to what you're trying to do. So you can try this again. But the idea is to get inspired. So I could get inspired by some of these questions. Maybe I can write a report on one of these topics here. Or maybe this picture of a conductor, maybe think, oh, maybe I could talk about music. Maybe we could talk about like music and child development. It depends what course I'm in, you know? Maybe I could talk about classical music during the Stalinist period if I'm in a history course. Maybe I could talk about social movements in music if I'm in a sociology course. So my tip today, my writing tip, idea generating tip, is to pull random things from your environment, whether you are like me and physically have magazines or newspapers still, or go online, scroll through some news, and see what that does to help you to generate a topic for your writing piece. And thanks so much for tuning in to our podcast or watching us on YouTube, our YouTube channel. We really enjoy having you as our audience. Feel free to send me a message. Let us know which podcasts you like, what you would like to hear about in the future. And if you want to find out more about PFAU Academic Writing, you can check out our website at www.fau.ca or follow us on social media at PFAU_academic writing. If you need any support with writing skills or editing, maybe you're applying for grad school or jobs, maybe you're struggling to write reports at work, you can reach out to us on our website, book a free discovery call, and we look forward to helping you reach your full potential on the page and in life today. Take good care.